great. That sounds very reassuring.
I'm pretty sure on Monday the Monday after trivia, I slept from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 6:30 the next morning. I was exhausted.
Yeah, I passed out about 9 o'clock at night, and I didn't even hear the kids on. I passed out about 2:30 on Sunday night or Monday morning. I didn't even hear the kids get up for school, and I got up by 10. We did our stuff. I got home, passed out at 9 again. Didn't wake up till 6 the next day.
Nice.
So,
when did you have to go back to work then?
Tuesday. So
Okay.
Tuesday.
I actually took the full Monday off.
Good choice, clearly.
First time I've done that in quite a while. So, actually, ever, I think. I usually took a half day, but this year I took the full Friday before and full Monday after. And I was
that's
glad
the smart thing to do.
That is the smart thing to do.
Which is probably why this is the first time he's done it.
Yes, exactly. Wait. And here we are in the spoiler room. We are live, and we're playing it loose tonight as we talk about a 1933 film, Duck Soup. And why are we talking about Duck Soup? Well, me and some of the crew had the pleasure once again of coming together in Stevens Point and playing in the world's largest trivia contest, Trivia 48. And with me tonight to talk about Duck Soup, which was the featured trivia movie, if you will, the kickoff film that they show to help kind of kick off the festivities that lead up to the contest. But in the room for me tonight is Dawn, the diva of the spoiler room herself, is here with us. Hello, Dawn.
Hello, Mark. Hello, gentlemen.
Hope you have started to recover and catch up on some sleep.
Starting to.
Starting to. And next to Dawn, back in the spoiler room with us, once again, it is the BFD, Mr. Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn.
Hello, Mark.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, good to hear, good to hear. And next to Glenn, returning to the spoiler room again, second week in a row. You might make this a habit. Better be careful. It is Steve Woltersdorf. It is Doc. Hello, Doc. How are you?
I'm good. I am non-trivial, only in my brain. I just didn't come. I am the one that didn't.
You are the one that didn't show up for
Come
trivia.
to the dark
The
side.
abuse has begun. It's all well.
But we are glad you are here with us tonight in the spoiler room because you are a Groucho Marx, a Marx Brothers fan, and so I thought it was appropriate to have you in here. Though you did not play trivia, you are familiar with tonight's movie that we're talking about, which is the 1933 Marx Brother film, Duck Soup. Now, Duck Soup is got a rather interesting history with it, but for those of you who aren't familiar with the film, it is about a man named Rufus T. Firefly, who is named president/dictator of the bankrupt country of Fredonia, and it declares war on neighboring Sylvania over the love of a wealthy female named Mrs. Teasdale. Duck Soup, wow. Let's go with Glenn first. Glenn, what are your initial feelings to Duck Soup?
My initial feelings to Duck Soup.
Yes.
That's a good question. I'll give you 3 guesses. I love Duck Soup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Marx Brothers fan. This is probably my favorite Marx Brothers movie.
Really?
It's between this and Night at the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
So, just I like the humor. I like their style of, particularly Groucho, his style of humor, and the way he interacts with the other brothers. I mean, they had a very unique chemistry. Particularly the 3 of them, Chico, Harpo, and Groucho. Poor Zeppo, though. Poor
Zeppo, especially with this film.
Well, this was his last one.
Yeah, I know. I was reading some of the trivia up on it. I didn't realize that this was his last one because he got tired of being kind of the straight man, the butt of all the jokes and such.
Ha! Sorry.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, he was kind of deemed the unfunny Marx brother. So,
which is, well, I suppose we'll get into it, which is not really a fair assessment of him, but I understand why it happened.
Yeah, we'll get into little bits of that as we talk about the film a little more. And Dawn, how about you with your initial feelings with Duck Soup? Do you enjoy it? Do you not enjoy it?
I did find it. I did enjoy it. I found it completely enjoyable and entertaining. Again, Groucho Marx has a singular style, which has been mimicked and incorporated into standard throughout the years, and Harpo and Chico too, beyond compare.
Mhm. Yeah.
And as far as Duck Soup itself, it's a great movie. It just is.
It is. I feel the same way. It's a fun movie. It always has been. I've always enjoyed it. Actually, I don't think there's a Marx Brother film I don't enjoy, but this one and Night in the Opera, though, are probably two higher ones on my list, definitely. And Doc, how about you? You're the Marx Brothers fan. We got to see this a while back with the only authorized or sanctioned Groucho Marx impersonator back in Oshkosh many moons ago. How do you feel about Duck Soup?
I was wondering if you're going to remember when we went and saw Frank. That's cool. No, I have a fondness for the history of entertainment, especially for comedy, for whatever reason. And I got to see Laurel and Hardy and the Three Stooges and some other acts like that as more of a child. I didn't have an opportunity to see the Marx Brothers till I was a little older for whatever reason. I don't know if they just weren't available in the packages or if I just kept missing them or whatever, but it was one of those deals where I read about them, I knew about them, and then suddenly I got to see them and I went, yep, this is good. And the fascination began rather quickly at that point. So yeah, I've gotten to see Frank Ferrante's Groucho Marx show twice, and in a couple weeks it'll be 3 times because he's in Milwaukee right now.
Oh, is he in Milwaukee?
For about 2 months, he's playing the Rep.
Really?
So he's been here since late March. He's got till late May. I've got tickets for a couple of Fridays from now. I'm a little excited. I think this is going to be a slightly different show from the ones that I got to see, and then I got to see with you, where it was more of an auditorium. They've got it set up more like a cabaret, I think, so he can walk out into the audience and abuse the audience a little more promptly. Yeah, Frank has the ability to put on makeup while he's talking to you on stage and turn around and suddenly he's Groucho for like 2 hours. It's very fascinating because, as Dawn noted, this act in general latched onto people's attention. Groucho became a very, out of the main brothers, probably the most recognizable in style and look. So it's very easy to do an impersonation of him. It's very difficult to actually impersonate him and do the act because it gets drawn in very wide, broad strokes a lot of times, Groucho and the rest of the Marx Brothers, and to do it in a fine-tuned manner that actually feels like that person is there interacting with you. It's a very different experience, and that's something Frank can do, and it's fun to have that connection with this weird past that fascinates me so.
And we get to see it when we got to see in Oshkosh the night before. He actually hosted a viewing of Duck Soup.
Yes.
Which was a lot of fun.
There was a child under 10 laughing its head off, and it made me feel hope for the new generation.
It did. But yeah, this film really just has some wild history. Like, as we mentioned already, it was it Zeppo's last film because he with the Marx Brothers. In fact, they broke up after this, if I remember correctly, because of it. He just completely cut. Which, as you mentioned, Doc, I don't think he was not funny. He was just the straight guy, but he had his own kind of humor to him, don't you think, in this film?
Totally. It's not as much on display in this film, but even in the short, brief sequences he has as Groucho's secretary, mostly interacting with Groucho, the timing that they have together is really, is really impressive. Like you said, the chemistry between the brothers is very solid. The problem becomes, because Zeppo is the straight man character, he doesn't have a distinctive character apart from that. So in every film, he's just doing whatever the plot kind of needs him to be in that role. He doesn't have a distinctive Groucho character or Chico or Harpo, so he immediately stands alone at that point because he's just the guy. And you can tell that the movie still needed that character because the movies after that still have a Zeppo character. It's just not Zeppo doing them. Even some of the earlier ones had Zeppo characters that Zeppo's not playing. Because like in I believe in Night of the Opera, it's Alan Jones that essentially ends up being the Zeppo character. The only difference is they've kind of merged the singing star and the Zeppo character together a little bit more to streamline the group. So, but it is kind of sad to see Zeppo go. And this is the last of the Paramount films too. Their deal broke up. They were kind of at a weird crossroads in their career, and it's apparently just Chico in a poker game talking to the right guy at the right time that keeps them going over to do stuff like Night at the Opera. No, it's
didn't Zeppo go to work with Brother Gummo in some talent agency?
Yes. Do not weep for Zeppo. Zeppo was a multimillionaire. He did fine.
Yes, he was.
He was an engineer and a theatrical agent. He did just fine. He was probably better off than some of the boys were for a while. Well, Chico just kept wasting away his money. That's part of the why the boys kept working as long as they did. Even at this point, they're not young. They've only been in movies for a couple of years, but they were playing vaudeville and all sorts of other circuits for a couple of decades. They were very seasoned performers. Probably, hang on, they were probably close to our age, which is a sad thing. Yeah, Zeppo was born in 1901, so at this point he's only in his mid 30s, but Groucho was probably a good 10 years older than him. So
yeah, it's interesting that they hadn't done that many films. I think it's one of those where people think they did a lot more as far as films than what they did.
There's about a dozen of them. Just most of them aren't very good once you get past a certain point.
Right. I mean,
they're not well remembered anyway.
Right, but Doug Soup definitely is, especially namely for Groucho Marx's Rufus T. Firefly character. Glenn, how'd you feel about when we first really get to meet Mr. Rufus T. Firefly?
I'm sorry, what?
How did you feel when the scenes where we actually get to first meet Rufus T. Firefly?
I mean, it's classic Groucho.
Mm-hmm.
In every way, shape, and form. I mean, the whole when they play the song for him to show up and he doesn't show up, and then he comes down the fire pole and he's standing there with the crowd watching, waiting to see who's going to come. I mean, just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, for me, let's try something else here. Just one moment. We're going to take a short break here. I got this.
The heck are you doing?
I think he unplugged himself.
It's entirely possible.
Oop, yeah.
I think he's gone plumb crazy.
How's this? Is this better?
I think so.
Am I not breaking up as much? Yeah, I'm not sure.
You were a little clipped for a little while. I think that was part of the issue.
Okay, so we'll try this microphone. That's what I get for getting that microphone.
Okay.
Anyway,
you sound a little smoother now. Thank you.
Dude. Well, that's good to hear. The joys of Google Hangout as well. So, so where were we? Oh, yes.
Rufus.
Groucho. In his introduction, yes, it was classic Groucho. I was trying to take notes because for the contest for trivia, during the 54 hours where they're asking you trivia questions, you know that they will ask some about the trivia movie. Could be anything. And I found it extraordinarily hard to take notes during the opening scene with Groucho because him being him, that first batch of dialogue he has with Mrs. Teasdale, it still floors me. And I watched it like 4 times in 2 weeks.
With the subtitles on even?
Well, it's one of those things where it's classic Groucho, so he's a master of the dialogue, so you miss like a quarter of the jokes to half of the jokes because you're too busy laughing at the previous.
Yep.
That's why they changed the pacing for Night at the Opera and Day at the Races. That's why they toured with those, so they could time out how long the laughs would last and then pause it so that you weren't missing as many jokes.
Oh, really? Is that?
Yeah, that was part of the reason why they could build some of the sketches up, and that's why with some of these, it's just they're very dialogue heavy. You know, they're still working from the early plays to some degree, like Animal Crackers and Coconuts, where those were stage shows that they knew inside and out, and just bam, 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 and would go. And they realized they had to let a movie breathe a little bit more because they couldn't judge the laughter like they can in the stage.
Yeah, I guess it's true. You're filming it, so you're not really knowing what your audience is laughing at. I mean, from when he starts with pick a card, and
all right, I still got 51.
Keep one. I've got 51 more.
Yeah, they don't. This is 1933. They've had sound. They've been working sound for 3 or 4 years now, pretty much. Mm-hmm. This is still a new concept. Just the whole idea of being able to hear them. That's why they weren't really popular before. They appeared in some silent films but they're in bits and pieces. Most of them aren't known to exist, and they needed sound.
Yeah,
for Groucho, if nothing else.
Don, how about you? How'd you feel about our introduction and that first batch of dialogue with Mr. Rufus T. Firefly?
So here's where I'm going to go off on a tangent because I again, as Glenn said, classic Groucho. However, it would not have been nearly as good or as classic if Groucho would not have had the most amazing, most gifted and talented straight man ever opposite him. And I'm talking about the Marx brother who wasn't a Marx brother, Margaret Dumont.
Oh, yes.
Groucho counted her as a Marx brother.
Exactly.
Yeah, Margaret was awesome.
She was with them from the beginning at vaudeville, and for me, without her fantastic, she was such a great straight man that people honestly believed she didn't get the jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, if those two wouldn't have had that fantastic chemistry, that perfect timing of working together and being such good friends like you and Doc, God, you two are ridiculous. Anyhow, if you wouldn't have, if they would not have had all that history and chemistry, I'm not convinced it would have been as good.
I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, as much as Zeppo was the straight man of the actual brothers, she was a better straight man.
She was, actually. You're absolutely right, especially some of those scenes where it's like she is keeping not only the straight face, but in character and everything. And that had to be a challenge sometimes, especially with how chaotic it would get when the three of them, the three brothers were together, or all four brothers, but especially when Chico, Harpo, and Groucho would get together. That had to be tough to do.
That's a lot of practice. Because you see
not
her
just
break
that,
sometimes.
but some of those, and some of those jokes were pretty harsh, and she kept it together.
Mm-hmm.
I can see you now, bent over the stove, cooking dinner, and I can't see the stove. It's like
that's a weird compliment, but you could argue it's still a compliment. It's just a weird compliment, because there, like you said, there is that. For a long time, people just thought, she doesn't get it. That's how she can do this. If you go, I watched this clip then after watching Duck Soup today in Animal Crackers. There's a part where it's the bigamy sequence where he's talking to Margaret Dumont and another lady, expressing, we should both get married. And there's a moment where he said, I kept watching her, and she's reacting in the amused, charming way that she's supposed to be in character. And then there's a point where he says bigamy, and she turns away from him and is fighting the biggest smile and pulls it together within seconds. And I'm like, okay, if anybody needed any on-screen evidence that she gets these jokes and she's acting, that's a great piece of evidence for that, because she's very clearly trying to go and just lose it, and pulls it back in, and at the time, I know he's going to watch this more than once. It'll be fine. Nobody will notice she did that. Everybody noticed she did that. It's great.
I just like how she almost always played that, that wealthy society matron, which was basically her real life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, her husband was like a multi-millionaire. Like, I don't remember what he was, but just he was like super rich, like beyond normal Hollywood rich people. And I was reading her bio, and it's like she would often commute from Paris.
Oh,
Where one of her mansions in Paris. So yeah, it's but yeah, I mean, she's Groucho said that he wasn't sure if she really understood their humor all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she's that good at being a straight man. Or a straight woman, I guess.
Yeah, and considering she went on to work with Bob Hope, W.C. Fields, and a ton of other talent, she obviously was talented enough to be snatched up by these huge names.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and you needed a person like that for when you're dealing with these characters. I mean, obviously Groucho front and center playing the Rufus T. Firefly dictator guy, but then we've got our two quote unquote spies, Ciccolini and Pinky, played by Chico and Harpo, and they play spies for Sylvania, and I use spies in quotes because as spies go, they were not very good. But with these two, I love their introduction as well. Doc, how'd you feel with the way we bring in Harpo and Chico's characters into this movie?
Yeah, fool you good, eh, boss? Yeah, I mean, it's both of those characters, especially Harpo, have this weird childlike quality to them. So it's hard to take a lot of, admittedly, they do some really unpleasant things sometimes. I mean, the whole destruction sequence, even though I know that was a style of comedy at the time, much like Laurel and Hardy's Big Business short.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem that they're being very antagonistic often, but they do it in such a good humored sort of way. It's hard to stay too mad at them. It's like an early Bugs Bunny cartoon before this is the last stage before, again, they realize a lot of things, before Thalberg teaches them some things to get to a next level where they realize they need some sympathy on those characters before they start fighting back. They can't just fight back to begin with because it doesn't seem as right. But right away, they're there, and there's a ridiculousness to them. So and a weird sweetness. So even when Harpo starts chasing girls and Chico's and he's cutting up things and Chico starts to just explain how the fact that basically they've done nothing for the last 2 weeks, but it sounds like they've done a lot of things. You can't stay too mad at him. He's very charming. That was apparently Chico. That was him in real life. He could talk himself in and out of all sorts of trouble.
I object.
Sustained.
Sustained. Why do you sustain? Couldn't think of anything else to say.
Yeah. Why'd you object? I couldn't think of anything to say. Why'd you sustain it? I couldn't think of anything either.
Exactly.
Yeah, their styles are definitely you get the Harpo in here with, especially with being the girl chaser. I particularly like the scene where our Sylvanian guy who's trying to take over Fredonia calls in his secretary by pressing a number. And as she leaves, Harpo goes to press the number again, and Chico goes,
He knows already.
Like he knows already. Well, Harpo was kind of the loose cannon on set, wasn't he? Didn't he always have that kind of reputation of you weren't quite sure what he was going to do? Or was that more of an act?
That's his character.
Mm-hmm.
He's Animal from the Muppet Show in that regard. Chico was the one that you couldn't find because he was be off playing cards somewhere.
Sure.
He'd be ready to film and he wouldn't be nowhere to be found.
Glenn, how'd you feel about Harpo in this film? Did he feel a little like a loose cannon, or do you think a lot of that was scripted?
I think it's a script as much as Harpo stuff is scripted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know particularly, how he performed it. I haven't read that much about him individually, but I think there's a fair degree of improv in his work.
That's fair.
I think it's kind of a more generalized, and it's like he does something along this lines, and he does. I mean, somebody has to, because obviously other people are in on some of the stuff. The whole thing with the horn with the lemonade in it. Obviously, the other guy's in on the joke because he does something with it too. So, unless they're all just that good at just winging it.
That was Edgar Kennedy, though. So,
yeah,
that was Edgar Kennedy. It's entirely
So.
Well, you did have his running gag with the leg, though, which I almost think was just a impulse thing, and you weren't quite sure when. I wonder if that's one of those things where, well, you're in a scene with Harpo now, and at some point, we don't know when, he's going to put his leg in your arm. Because the way they did it, but I love that running gag, and that he did that in a number of films, didn't he? Not just this one with the leg, putting the leg in someone's hand.
Oh yeah, he's done that before.
Yeah. Though this is the first one, I think, first or only film, or one of the first ones where he didn't actually play a harp. He played the strings on a piano, but he didn't actually play a harp, which I thought was also interesting with this film. Don, how about you? What'd you think of our two spies, Ciccolini and Harpo?
Did you have something to add to that?
No. What did you
I
think
thought
of
they
it?
were fun. I really enjoy Harpo's physical comedy. It does get a little, and I don't want to use the term malicious because that was the style at the time. But it does push that line a little bit for my personal taste. But I do understand and appreciate it was the style for the time. I really enjoy his physical comedy because it's like a sleight of hand. You don't know what he's going to do next. With the swapping of the hats, the putting the leg in the hand, or the hand, putting the leg in the hand. And there has to be a level of cooperation with with the other people and the crew, the other actors, because you can't just, whip out a giant pair of shears and start cutting things off without people freaking out a little bit, or at least flinching. So there has to be a level of trust or a level of cooperation that's there. So yeah. And with Chico, again, that's a good, I think I was listening to listening to an interview with Groucho, where he actually called Chico the straight man, and I'm just was a little confused. And yet, but with the three of them, Chico would be the closest to a straight man.
Yeah, I can see that. Chico had his own play on words like Groucho, but in a different style. He was more of the punny guy, if you will. Whereas Groucho was the sleight of words, like the double meaning. I'm not versed in English.
Double
like you fine
entendres.
folks. Thank you. Stuff along that lines.
That's a French word.
I know it is a French word. Speak French to me. No, but like the courtroom scene, as we alluded to here before, we get to the scene where almost felt just a little improv, where was it Groucho had said something, and then Chico did a play on words on that, and Groucho looked at him for a minute, and then Groucho says another word, and then says, "There you go, get out of that one."
Oh yeah. Oh,
That was
God.
the objection
What was after that?
adjunct.
Abjunct. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the abjunct line, and it almost felt like that was just a little improv. And we're talking 1933, so we're not talking about like today where you can shoot a film on your phone and do multiple takes. Glenn, would you say that the way they filmed this also kind of had an effect on how they approach these scenes comically?
Probably.
Well, I mean, because we get longer takes in here, you don't get as many, cuts as what you might see in a today's like comedy or any movie.
Well, I think cuts in general were a lot different back then.
Mm-hmm.
Where you didn't have as many, because I mean, you didn't have as many camera angles. You didn't have 58 cameras filming from every possible. Well, we have to have 12 crane shots, and we need to have this pocket cam, and we need the vampire mouth cam, and we didn't have all these different angles for everything. So I think it just looks like it's these longer shots. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that is spliced footage together still from multiple takes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find it hard to believe that whole mirror thing was all perfectly done in one shot.
Yeah.
And there's even bits where you can see that he's not quite on, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure a bit, but I think it's more just a sign of the times when it was made. I mean, figure too, this was made during the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So film in general is expensive, and they probably weren't trying to. They're probably trying to be as frugal as possible with a lot of stuff as they could.
Yeah, the famous mirror scene in particular, we see that mimic a number of times, including Bugs Bunny, I think, did it at least once, didn't he, Doc?
I believe so. It's the mirror scene is. How can I put this? I thought of a way to say this earlier. They did not originate this joke, if you will, but they kind of took it to a level that may not have been seen quite before. And by doing that, they became kind of the holders of the record or whatever. So every mirror scene after that reflects, I guess pun intended, this one, as opposed to any of the other ones. It's like the coconut gag in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's not that they came up with the joke, but everybody after that point remembers them for doing the joke. I know Max Linder did it in the 1920s in a silent film at the very least, and there's other variations of it certainly. But heck, even
Harpo trivia.
Sorry. Harpo even did this with Lucille Ball on I Love Lucy once. So that's part of the iconic quality of the sketch in that regard. But yeah, I think it changes camera angles a couple of times if memory serves. So they had, and by the end, yeah, they are falling apart. That's part of the joke, is that Harpo's not keeping tabs as much as he was anymore. But it fascinates, because they're brothers, that all it takes is changing the makeup a little bit, and at a glance it takes a moment to tell which brother is which. There's a story that may or may not be apocryphal about when they were doing some of the shows on the stage, and Groucho apparently wanted the day off or something like that. I don't remember the exact details of the story, but he just decided he wasn't going to be there, and he went and saw the show or something, and Harpo was playing Groucho, is the story. And he put on the makeup. Nobody could tell the difference. He knew all the lines because he'd been in there. And it just showed how, if indeed that's true, how versatile they are, and at the same time how much alike, it's a lot of that is the makeup.
I read that Zeppo.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I read that Zeppo did a very good Groucho as well.
I can believe it. When you're around people for long periods of time, or siblings where you interact a lot, it becomes a little easier to do versions of them. I was going to
Well-
say mock them, but that didn't seem quite fair necessarily.
Well, in this, you actually have the three Groucho brothers,
Yeah.
the three Marx brothers, all Groucho, basically. And it's hard in a few of those scenes to tell which one is which.
Yeah.
You almost think that it is Groucho and they're just playing off like he's not actually trapped in the bathroom, because the scene goes, they trap Ciccolini traps Groucho in the bathroom, and he goes and tries to steal the war plans because Fredonia is going to war with Sylvania, and you see him lock Groucho in and then put the makeup on, but you almost think it's a sleight of edit and that it's actually Groucho again, but it's not. It is actually because they look so similar. It's eerie, really. You know, and it's not like it's that much makeup. It's black shoe polish on the, you know, lips.
It's grease. Yeah, grease
grease
paint
paint.
over the and some glasses, and trying to cover up as much as your face so it can only show so much. It works for Groucho, a little less so for Bela Lugosi.
Didn't quite work so well in that regard. No. So this film, though, it's I was impressed. It's only like a hour and 8 minutes long. Glenn, do you feel there may be some footage or some such that are sitting on the cutting room floor, or do you believe that this is kind of just how they paced this out, and that that it was just meant to be a shorter film?
I think that's just how it got done. I mean, there were a lot of movies were shorter back then too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not like you generally didn't have your 2.5 hour long motion pictures. I don't know. It didn't seem that short to me. It's what, an hour and
8 minutes, I think.
hour and 8 minutes.
Mhm.
Is that all it is? Yeah, I suppose that is a little shorter, but I mean,
it does jump around just a little bit, though. I mean, because we go from I guess it's the difference in old school film storytelling versus the new film storytelling. Because I mean, we jump right from the dancing scene with "Hey, we're going to war" to they're in the middle of the war. I mean, they're already well into the war when we jump to the scene where he's dressed in various captain outfits throughout the battle, talking about which hills get captured, which has a great scene in there with Ciccolini coming over and punching in to an actual time clock.
I like that.
yeah.
Which you look at the comedy that they set, and some of these other, and you could still see their influences today in comedy. Maybe not as much, but especially like for the comedies I grew up with, the 80s comedies, and that you can't tell me the Zucker brothers weren't Marx Brothers fans with some of the comedy that they did. Don, would you say that a lot of the stuff like you've seen in, like we saw in Duck Soup and a couple of their other films, really kind of you still see today in some form?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Again, you can see influences of Groucho Marx.
That guy.
Wow,
Okay.
that guy, the guy with the grease paint.
Sure.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, you can see his influence. You can see all of their influence, from iconic gags to simply the way lines are spoken. Athol was actually known for trying to mimic Groucho Marx's linguistic style of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the gags, yeah, absolutely. You can see that like you said, the Zuckerbergs were influenced by them. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you look at their films, their early films, with the parody ones, which are still some of the best parody films out there. In some of the skits in there, you're looking at that going, hey, that was a Groucho gag, which probably wasn't their gag either. Like Docs, they just kind of own, they're associated with it because they made it famous, along that line. Some of these gags have been around for since the vaudeville age, in various stages, and they still work. They still get to laugh, as does Duck Soup. Now, you may be wondering what trivia is. Well, our contest here in Stevens Point, world's largest trivia contest, they play 54 hours of trivia where they ask questions on the radio, and it could be on anything. But the trivia kickoff movie, which was Duck Soup, as we mentioned earlier, they do ask specific questions along that lines. And some of the questions, most of it usually is what's written on signs or things you can't quite look up in scripts. I would say, wouldn't you, Dawn, that's what they try to lean towards sometimes is something you can't easily Google?
Exactly. Yeah.
Very
specific sequences or things that can't just be. Sometimes it can be found in like the trivia bits of certain things, but oftentimes, yeah, it's something visual that you actually have to look at.
Right. Like one of the questions was, what was written on a sign that Pinky hung outside the door of their headquarters during the war, I think it was, or something along that line.
Help wanted.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That was exactly my reaction as the question was being spoken. It was, help wanted. Or you could get the other question: what was written on what sign did Pinky carry besides the help wanted sign on the door? There was another sign he carried to help try to get soldiers for the Fredonia Army.
Join the Army, see the Navy.
Yes.
Yep.
So you get questions like that, but it could be on anything. This is why we've got to try to get you on up here to play, Doc, because
apparently I'm playing too well already. Yes,
you're playing too well already. Yes.
Except you're not earning us valuable trivia points.
No, you have to be up here. Which the points are based off of how many teams actually answer it correctly, which I always thought was an interesting and probably the best way to do that. That it's a good gauge of how hard your question is how many people were able to look it up. Glenn, what did you think of the contest this year and their choice of Duck Soup for the kickoff movie? Did you think that was fitting?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. And why would that be fitting for a trivia movie, would you say?
Oh gosh, there's so many memorable things in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, just some of the lines, some of the things that happened. I mean, yeah, the signs that Pinky's carrying around. It's got a lot of memorable stuff to it.
And in the years prior, up until what is it, like maybe 5 years ago, he did try to get like hard to find independent films, and then Jim Oliva, who helps, he basically helps organize this along with John Eckendorf. They do all kinds of work for this contest, but they started picking the more classic films. And as if you heard our podcast last year, they showed Blues Brothers last year. Dawn, what do you think about them doing the classic films like this? Do you think it makes it more fun?
I think so. The movies are. It's much more enjoyable, and it's much more of a treat, at least for me, to see some of these classic movies on the big screen, because these opportunities are rare. So being able to see movies like Casablanca, Singing in the Rain,
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove was the one that was killing me. The Blues Brothers on the big screen. Those would be wonderful. Although, to be completely honest, I regret not seeing Priscilla, Queen of the Desert on the big screen when I had the opportunity.
Ah, yes. That's a fun movie. Definitely. But But yeah, I like the classic ones. It just, I guess it has a little bit more of a trivia feel to it.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but it seems
Well,
more
and-
fitting.
And here's a big thing about Duck Soup. It's one of the more appreciated Marx Brothers movies, but they typically, one of the beautiful things about trivia is the music, which we really got into last year on the Blues Brothers discussion. And one of his staple songs for the contest is from Animal Crackers.
Captain Spaulding.
Yes.
Well, and Glenn, one of the questions was every year that they ask is directly Marx Brothers related. So would you say Duck Soup? How'd you feel about Duck Soup being the trivia movie this year? Very fitting choice, you think?
You're asking me again?
Did I
Deja
ask-
vu.
Did I ask you already? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did already ask you.
He was just confused because he couldn't ask me.
I was confused because I couldn't ask Doc. Yes, I apologize. Yes, you're right. Well, that's why we edit these things.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm still recovering from trivia. No. So so the craziness with it, you've got the question, the traditional question of what is the performing names of the Marx Brothers film, Marx Brothers, which always gets the phones burning. And they play Captain Spaulding. They sometimes ask other questions that are Marx Brothers related. So it was a fitting choice. And we were trying to make predictions while we were waiting in line what the movie was going to be, because they never announce it until you go see it midnight Friday. And I kind of guessed it. So I'm throwing that in there, that I did kind of guess it once I heard a couple of the hints that he had dropped. So, I should have got some valuable trivia points for that, but we won't go there. No, just kidding.
Well, fair enough. You did not get the fabulous Master Predictor prize because
No, Mark does deservedly so predicted a question just from what we were talking about, what they were talking about. And yeah, I mean, he got that. He bought the Jordy Nelson cereal box, and they actually asked a question off of that.
Well played, then.
Yeah.
Well played.
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, he saw it in a store and he's like, I bet that's probably going to be a question. And he actually bought a box, and sure as shit.
Did he eat said cereal, and was it good?
He did not get opened yet. It is currently sitting in my kitchen,
To where it'll probably stay till next trivia.
which is where it'll probably stay until next trivia.
They become a shrine to trivia. Understood.
Well, no, because you never know. He may ask another question off the box.
You can still eat the contents and keep the box, but whatever.
Well, but it's a rather old box, I think. I don't think those are exactly fresh.
No, I think it
oh.
is.
Oh, is it? Is it a
Might
fresh?
be.
Because I thought those have been out for a while.
I don't know.
But
I don't know if they did one wave of those or not, so never. If you bought it 6 months ago, I wouldn't want to eat the internals either.
yeah, cereal.
Not as much.
But they ask that's what Oz asks as well. Cereal box packaging, candy bar packaging.
Wow.
He-
Okay.
Yeah. No, he did. He's done candy bars. He's done, you name it. If it's a food product,
Obsessive
usually-
much? Okay.
usually candy or cereal. Like the games that they have on the back of cereal boxes.
He has this strange fascination with Boom Chicka Pop too.
Yes. Well, that's because it goes along with the song and it just fits so well, I think.
I suppose that's true.
Did he ask a Boom Chicka Pop song, question this year?
Yeah, he did.
He did. I might have been sleeping for that one.
I think that was when you were sleeping, yes.
Yeah. So,
Was
Glenn,
it
did you
sleeping or passed out at that point?
No, I chose to sleep.
Oh,
Glenn,
okay.
did you have a favorite question this year from trivia that you can remember?
Favorite question? No, not really.
No. Or one in particular that
subject you did not expect, perhaps? That
what
came
was
up?
No. There's ones that made me mad. Us not getting points because we pronounced a name Katie instead of Kidai.
Yes. There is that.
Because, the DJs always pronounce everything correctly.
Yeah.
That is part of the challenge of trivia is sometimes they have the newer DJs because it's completely student run. So you have the new DJs as well reading questions, and they get nervous because they know that 10,000 people are listening for sure. And so they get a little nervous, and sometimes interpreting the question is as much of a challenge as the contents of said question itself. We had a few of those, I think, especially Saturday night. But it's all in fun, all for a fundraiser for the radio station. And it's, if you like the energy of Duck Soup, that's kind of the energy and the chaos that can come during trivia. Is that type of feeling, that kind of you just keep going for 54 hours and there's so much stuff. But the most important part, as always, is just getting together with fine folks face to face and experiencing said things where they ask questions like, how was Mrs. Teasdale vaccinated? According to Rufus T. Firefly. Huh?
Phonograph needle?
Yes. See, you got to come up and play, Doc.
I'm winning. I'm a winner.
You're a winner.
I'm winning nothing.
The
Sorry?
videos of Mark dancing are nothing compared to seeing it in person.
Oy.
I know of
I saw the
one.
CG recreation of such, and that was pretty good.
Okay. here we
Yeah,
go.
there are 3. I just don't know if I posted all of them yet.
There's
I
3?
saw one.
Oh, dear Lord.
I'm naughty.
So I hope you enjoyed our ramblings. We're going to wrap it up here. Duck Soup, it is an hour long. Not a huge amount of depth here to this movie, but still a lot of fun. And I wanted to do it just because of trivia and talk a little bit about the contest, which is always crazy fun, and try to get more people to know about said contest so they can come to our little sliver of Wisconsin, almost dead center. We're 30 miles away from the exact geographic center of Wisconsin. Just want to put that out there. I think so. Pittsville is like 30 miles away, isn't it? About that? Dawn, do you know offhand?
I don't know.
Oh. Yes, we have a
when I
town.
tell people where Wisconsin is, I open up my hand, point in the center, and I say there.
Yes, because there is a town called Pittsville, which is about 30 miles away, that has a sign, and they take pride in the fact they are the exact geographic center of Wisconsin. So we're close as we can to being there. And we have a fun time during trivia, and you should come up and take part in the zaniness, especially you film fans out there, because I know we got a couple questions thanks to Glenn's great memory on films as well. And if you have any type of knowledge to where people go, how the hell do you know that? Well, then you should come up and play trivia. So. So we'll wrap it up here tonight. Thanks for listening to us ramble a bit on this. We'll go down the line now and see where you can catch people at when they're not here. Go ahead, Dawn.
You can find me at intheaudience.net. But if you really, really want some fun, go to 90FM Trivia.
Yes, 90fm.org/trivia, I think it is. Or is it 90FM Trivia? I'll put a link in the notes. But just search for Trivia 48, and it'll get you there. They'll have the scores and highlights. There's a parade. There's all kinds of crazy things up here that you should come and experience firsthand, because that's the only way you'll understand why we do what we do every year. Glenn, where can they find you at?
Oh, you can find me on Facebook with the B-Movie Bunker and Giant Bunker Productions. Find me also on Astro Radio Z. You can find me on my gaming podcast with gncast.com, The Adventure Party, or you can just follow me on Twitter at Guy in a Bunker.
Awesome. And Octavius, where can they see you on stage?
Remind me to buy back my introduction to you.
Oh yes. Well, the check hasn't the check hasn't cleared yet, so you know.
If you put a check in that envelope, I'll fire you. Okay, very quickly, I get to play with a bunch of people in the Boozy Bard Shakespeare Raw group, and it's a good time and it's fun. And we pick a name out of a hat and we play a Shakespearean character in front of a group of people who normally laugh and cheer and boo and occasionally yell things inappropriately, and then we yell things back inappropriately. Next show is May 8th, 9th, and 10th at Best Place 901 West Juneau Avenue, down in that area where the Pabst Brewery used to be, and now all sorts of other Pabst stuff kind of is, and reopening and things like that. Show starts at 7:30. We're doing Coriolanus in May, and if you don't have time for that, I'm not in the show, but I'll be going to the War II Galactic Boogaloo show at Variety Hour Happy Hour May 5th and 6th. That's a Friday and a Saturday. Those are at 8 o'clock at Comedy Sports, 420 South 1st Street. A lot of the group from Shakespeare Raw is in that, wrote that, and are being very silly, and I'm looking forward to it, even though I have no clue what's going to happen.
That's always the most exciting part, is when you don't know when things are going to happen or what things are going to happen.
It's true.
So, and especially for something like a comedy sports type thing, that definitely gets unpredictable, as I think we all have experienced here firsthand.
Well, it's at Comedy Sports, but it is a scripted.
It is
show.
more scripted.
It's in the secondary room.
Okay, I got you.
They have two.
Cool.
At least.
Awesome. So check out these fine folks and all of their stuff. We appreciate you listening to us tonight. Hope it got you interested. If you ever wondered, I don't want to watch that. That's old crap. Well, it's not all old crap. Some of that classic stuff is classic for a reason, and you should watch it, especially if you enjoy a good comedy that doesn't revolve around dick jokes and puking, which a lot of comedies seem to do nowadays. So with that in hand, I think we will say goodnight, folks. Say goodnight, folks.
Night, folks.